how much detail do I go into? Because I don't want to like repeat myself the whole every podcast episode. But there'll be stuff that'll be different than what I'll say this time too.
Yeah.
Just because there are elements that it's almost like a time and place for everything when you want to share something.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But.
Well, Trey's really special, man, because I'll tell you this. So that Saturday when his dad passed, the family had contacted everybody, and Kyle Gatlin, who's now our senior minister, put out a recording for everybody announcing Hayes' passing. So that was on Saturday. On Sunday, Trey was leading worship at the
That's
church.
what he was saying on the last episode.
Yeah, because
he was telling me about how he was going to step in and preach and stuff, and then he was like that next Sunday, like the next day.
I mean, like within, just a little over 24 hours is all elapsed.
And I was shocked because, you're never prepared for a moment like that, and you never know how you're going to react. You might have an idea in your head that you might react a certain way.
Yeah,
but you just never know until you're in that moment. Like,
right.
I don't know. Like throughout life, like you kind of think about like if this ever happened to me, I'll probably act like this, or if this happened, I'll probably react that way. But you go through something, and you really just don't know until it happens.
Well, our mom was sick with MS for a number of years, and it's not as fatal as some of those other diseases are. But it's kind of one of those things, as somebody gets older, it doesn't really get better. It just kind of gets worse.
And if you get something else, it impacts that a lot.
Yeah, and I tell people, I said, you kind of, I agree. I don't think you're ever totally prepared. I think you kind of, in your mind, you kind of brace yourself for it, And even if you do that, it's like you said, man, you're not really prepared. I mean, you can say, well, when it happens, and it's God's will. But at the same time, you're like, it's still your level.
You're still human,
yeah.
And the human aspect about it is, and that's why I would say it's so important to have a great support system around you. Because if you're not going to act right, or if you're not acting like you should, or if you are acting like you should, you got someone there that can like take you along with you, or like help you separate from a situation, or whatever the appropriate action could be. You always want to have that support system there somehow.
Well, and I think the thing that happens too is, I think for the most part, when it initially happens, I told somebody, I said, it's weird. I said, it doesn't necessarily hit you right then. It kind of hits you, when it's, the next birthday comes up, or, some kind of holiday comes up, and that's when it's, they're not here anymore,
Right. That's what Trey and I were talking about. And I've shared this before too. Like I normally ask, like, what holiday do you think like impacted me more?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, people just assume it's going to be Thanksgiving, Christmas, that holiday season, but it wasn't actually. It was actually Valentine's Day to where it really hit. Yeah. And the way I explain it is because, I'm not saying that the, holiday season isn't hard at times when family members pass or loved ones pass. But for Valentine's Day, it's like that day is for a significant other. Like, yes, moms, dad, kids, we all do stuff with each other kind of stuff. But it's dedicated to your number one. And so it's like, when I realized that my mom didn't have her number one there anymore, that's where it really just, I was like, no matter what, on that, at least that particular Valentine's Day, I made sure that she was, taken care of, because, I felt horrible. I was like, we're all making plans for that significant other. Yeah. And like one of the things I used to do with my dad was to take him out to go get, Valentine's Day chocolates or cards and stuff like that. Right. That'd be something that we would do. So it was like that muscle memory where like I felt like I should be doing this right now. Yeah. And I can't. But that was where I think it hit me the most, was Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I tell people, it's really even in those little moments. I know Amber, my wife, when her grandmother Glenda passed away, she had been sick with cancer, and it was just largely inoperable. I mean, there was not much they could really do about it. So, she just kind of made the decision she was going to, do whatever treatments they could, but she was ready, and So, she passed, and Amber handled it really well. She, was, so brave for her family and so tough throughout the whole process. And so one thing we used to do with Glenda was we would go, like a lot of people do, on Saturday morning, we go to Ray's restaurant and have breakfast with her. And we hadn't been in a while, and the first time we go, we sat down, and about 10, 15, Amber just started crying. Like she just, really, not to the point she was,
it's like those everyday things. That
yeah, but it's like those little moments you think about. And I think that's where, for most people, it really hits, is when you think about something like Valentine's Day.
Not stuff you plan for.
Yeah. Our mom always, even as grown men, all 4 of her sons, she always made sure we had a thing of candy and a card on Valentine's Day, and that's those little things you end up missing. Really and truthfully, you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, I remember. So it's like for this particular campaign with the New Promise Cancer Foundation, the cancer I'm representing is lymphoma, but I think almost anybody, like we can almost represent all cancers. Because there's just so much that are just unfortunate how much cancer impacts people. But to your point is like my grandma, she was another one of those things. Like she was one of the first family members when I was a kid that had passed away. I think I was about a freshman in high school or so. But that was colon cancer. And among some other issues that were going on too. She was old too. I can't remember the exact age, but she was up there as well.
Yeah.
She lived her great life and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that she would do for like birthdays and stuff was she would always, the birthday person would get like the big money, like $20 or something. But then like she would always include like $1 or $5 to like the brother or sister. So they never felt left out or something like that.
Typical grandma power move.
Right. Yeah. So it was just like stuff like those little things like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not getting that this year kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like some of my aunts and uncles, they still stepped in and kind of kept that tradition going.
Yeah.
I'm still expecting, like the last 20 years, I'm still an adult, but it's like my aunts and uncles, you can still pass that money this way.
Yeah, I like the guy that talked about, was one of the Duck Dynasty guys. He talked about at the time in the state of Louisiana, the Nutria rats, they were offering a $5 bounty on them live or dead. And so they showed a video of him pulling over on the side of the road and getting it. And he said, hey, look, he said, I'm blessed. I've done very well financially. My family. He said, that don't mean I'm too good to stop and pick up a $5 bill.
That's funny.
Oh man, but no, you're right, man. It's you think about all the different cancers that are out there, and some of the ones you hear stories about are just ones you've never really heard of before. Naturally, you're always going to think about, lung cancer. You're going to think about breast cancer, pancreatic.
Right.
But then, some of them you hear, and it's like, I didn't even know that existed.
Like that's a thing.
Yeah, and it's.
And I'm horrible with medical terms as it is.
Yeah.
So, you start getting hit with the cancer you never heard of, and then all the other things that go with it.
Well, and and in my mind, it's like the longer the word for it, it seems like the worse it is. Yeah.
Could be true.
Yeah, because I you hear these medical terms, and I know we had my dad. I think it was my dad had a guy that he worked with years ago that had I want to say it was some kind of cancer in his neck, and I don't think it was anything that was necessarily life threatening like some of the other ones are. But I was like, that's out there.
Right. And it's like some of the stuff is like, I'm not sure how serious things are at times, or when you start hearing about stages and levels, and I'm like, what does this all mean?
Well, I think for like a lot of things, because for my part of the campaign, I'm representing testicular cancer, and and that's really kind of a tough one because us as men, we never like to admit there's something wrong, and certainly a sensitive issue like that.
Exactly.
But at some point you want to say, look, man, if you're having problems, you need to go see a doctor. You'd rather address something on the front side, because think of how many people you've known that have just said, oh, it's going to be okay, there's no problem, I'm okay, and then one day it's too late, know, and that's the thing that's so sobering to me. So, I think we got to as much as none of us like it, we got to go get our prostate checked. I don't think any man really enjoys doing that, But yeah, I mean, same thing with, your testicular health. Make sure you're getting your checkups regularly, and when you do your annual physical, annual checkups, make sure everything's okay there. And when you get ahead of it, you're going to be a lot better off.
And I put this challenge out there too, or just more of like a reminder to challenge your doctors, because with part of my dad's whole issue kind of stuff was when he went for his checkups, they would only scan from here up. But he ended up having a tumor the size of a football in his stomach. So it's one of those, tell your doctors, I know they're doctors, they went to school, spent a lot of money on their education, all that kind of stuff. It's great. But they're still a human, and there's also it's good to challenge your doctors.
Right.
Make sure they're taking care of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if, to your point, if they could have caught that sooner, could he still be here today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things because, a tumor that size, and I would never say I'm a medical, but it didn't come out of nowhere.
Right. To this day, I'm still just how does something like that just get missed? It's that big.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, in the cancer screenings, and I know at one time, I don't know if a lot of places used to do it, but a lot of employers used to have cancer screenings where they come, check your skin, check, blood levels and things like that. Right. And I mean, that's a good thing. And really and truthfully, I think the older we get, I don't know if anybody really ever loves going doing their annual checkup, but I almost think, is it better to do it twice a year? Do one kind of as you're starting the year off, then maybe one toward, as you get into the end of the year, and just to make sure, everything's okay. I mean, granted, it's not a huge time commitment. It's usually a couple hours, and everything they're going to do. Yeah. But it's hey, a lot can change from January 2000, or we're now in March 2024 to March 2025.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that you can't take for granted, and you can't really just say I'm just going to push it to the side and just not worry about it, because you wonder how many times that's happened in life, and one day somebody realized it was too late. They couldn't do anything to stop it.
Something I am curious about your story is there's not as many people that I've come in contact with that is, they've dealt with cancer, beat it, or currently doing stuff. That are going to come on video to share something like that. So, I don't know, just tell me about your journey with that, because I'm really curious about how, one, obviously it's a sensitive issue because of how it impacts guys. When you heard the news, how you heard the news, and where was your... What was it like at that time period?
Unfortunately, I've never been diagnosed. Okay. So, and I meant to make that clear the other night. But no, I've, known guys that have gone through it. And, it's one of those things that, when it...
So you're not diagnosed?
Yeah, no, I've never, So, I may have let it misunderstand the other night when we were talking about it. But, but no, known guys that have fought that. And, something like testicular cancer, I mean, you'll see it, and, you've seen it in guys that are, in their mid to early 20s, and sometimes it hits men much later in life. And so, when you're presented with that, it's, okay, well, what do I do for this person, I mean, naturally, always being people of faith, we're going to pray, we're going to, be there as a support system, but, what are some other things I can do? Right. And, you mainly got to be that source of encouragement for them. It can't be just that, hey, I'm going to make a call or send a text message one time and just hope for the best. I mean, you got to regularly check in on people. And
there's not to interrupt you, but
no.
To that point, I'm like, I've grown up in the faith world, since I was in my mom's womb kind of thing, but just over the years to kind of learn too, there's this, I don't know if someone said it or if it was just something that developed, idea is just that, we can be the answer to the prayers that we are praying. So taking action on that kind of stuff, we're I would say just at the bare minimum as decent humans to take care of each other, to be there for each other.
Yeah.
And so it's like, definitely like what you're saying, pray, have them in your thoughts and all that kind of stuff, like the cliche kind of stuff goes. But at the same time, figure out creative ways to help out, practical ways to help out. I mean, if someone's, especially in the heat of going through cancer type stuff, I mean, there's all kinds of needs that could happen. It could be housework, it could be cooking meals,
right,
running errands, taking someone to appointments or back from appointments.
Right.
Because, and I don't really, I've been debating on if I should even share this kind of stuff, but I'm not in the heart of putting anybody down kind of stuff. But it's like, I remember when my dad was going through like the last couple of weeks of his life kind of stuff, or a month or whatever. It's like years later, I found out that I had at least 2 family members that held stuff against me, that I worked too much. I wasn't at the hospital enough and stuff like that. So it's like, that kind of stuff that can ruin someone in a sense. But my point is that, it's like we still have bills to pay. We still have things to do, even if you're not the one with cancer. Like it was my dad, but I still had a family to take care of too.
Right.
If I wasn't working, I wasn't making any money.
Exactly.
And it's not like insurance is going to cover my decision to go to a hospital kind of stuff. So I would go when I could. Like it was mostly after work hours kind of stuff. But it's like there's needs like that. It's like whether it's financial or like if I got off work, got cleaned up, I didn't have time to clean my own house, or I didn't have time to help out with my daughter at the time. But we just had Olivia at the time. And then it's like it could trickle down with the burdens that line up after that. So that's kind of like what I really appreciated about New Promise Cancer Foundation, is that their goal is to alleviate that kind of stress.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you stop and think, when somebody gets hit with that news, I mean, the first thing that's going to hit them, I mean, obviously it's going to be, I would think, some sense of shock. And I've been, very blessed. I've never personally had to face that. But, you start thinking all of a sudden, okay, what are we going to do?
All your priorities start shifting like crazy.
Yeah, and because I think about, if somebody, let's say it's, a guy that's gone through, radiation treatment, he's been going through, all these different, chemical treatments that they're doing, all these different things he goes through, and it's a 1.5-year process. Well, let's say he's a guy that works construction. Well, God willing, he's going to bounce back from it. He's going to be, rehab. He's going to be clean and cancer free. But he probably can't immediately just go back to what he was doing.
Right.
I mean, you got to probably work back if he ever could. Because I mean, when you go from those extreme periods of weight loss, you're going through radiation, you're sick, your body doesn't just rehab like that. And so I mean, you're going to have disruptions in your income. You're going to have, I mean, just daily disruptions of life because those with kids, I mean, it takes 2, and all of a sudden you've got, your wife or your husband is having to fill both roles. They're playing mom and dad for however long it may happen. So, and I think that's where New Promise is just really going to be such a blessing. It is a blessing to everybody that's affected. They can be touched by this organization because, everybody sees, I think, the immediate. See the people, going through treatments and going through that, but they don't see a lot of behind the scenes stuff, when they're having to pay for, hotel rooms, they're having to buy gas for the car, they're going round trip to Birmingham 2 or 3 times a week, or flying out to Houston or whatever it may be.
In today's world, nothing's cheap.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah. I mean, and the thing about it is when you're facing that kind of stress, that kind of financial, impact, it seems like, gas, it's, right now $3 a gallon. Well, it feels like it's more like $10 a gallon, because it's taking every penny away from you, and so I think that's one of the most meaningful things that we can do, and I think it's a great cause to consistently donate money to.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely, because an organization like that's going to find ways to stretch that dollar and find the way that every dollar given is gonna
that much support behind him as far as like friends go.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there was maybe much family numbers at least, or and so on and so forth. And he's the guy. Sometimes the guys I don't know the best way to put it, but not like we're on the back burner with stuff. But a lot of the attention and energy goes towards like the females or the children and stuff like that, which is fine. That's great.
Yeah.
Take care of them. I'm not saying to take anything less, but there's a lot of times where the guys, we just kind of corner up a little bit and just kind of push through. But then once everything's over, it's like that's where a lot of, just different kind of mental health issues can come from that.
Absolutely.
And so like having those, support groups or, people that are intentional with, like, I'm assuming New Promise is going to have some organization with to where they can have support groups or point people to a support system of some sort. Because like having someone that's going to be intentional with it is going to go a long way. And at times like we're all human too, and not everybody's trained to be a counselor. So even if you are a friend, you can be there for someone, but sometimes someone needs something more than just like a friend being there.
Right.
Sometimes you need something that's going to take a trained professional to get someone through things.
Right.
I remember talking to my brother that his wife recently passed away back in November time frame. And it's like, afterwards I was just like, have you thought about counseling and stuff like that too? Because, I feel like he does have a pretty good support system, the family. His mom, he's got a closer sister that lives closer to him. His nephew's living with him. So it's like he's got some people surrounding around him and stuff. But at the same time, everybody, I think, throughout life needs to have some professional counseling. It's not like this thing like you're a screwed up person if you're going to get counseling. It's one of those things like sometimes you just need someone to walk you through appropriate steps or like take action to where you can do some steps that lead in a better direction than just either being stagnant or going further down the hole.
Well, and I think that's the good thing, particularly with men and having fellowship, because I think you're right. I think sometimes when those situations arise, I think sometimes, we do tend to overlook, guys that have, lost their child or they, their wife, or even if everything's turns out okay, they've still gone through a really rough experience.
I agree.
And, and I think we as men, I think one thing that all of us happens, when something like that hits, the two things are you're going to drown yourself in work, you're going to drown yourself in something.
Just keep busy on
so
something.
You're going to be busy doing something, and you're almost going to create isolation. And that's, I think, what can really hurt you in the long run. And maybe in the immediate, we all kind of need that because, there's sometimes when you have a bunch of people around, because I think most guys, what do we all crave? We crave that little bit of peace every day. And so, you do kind of at some point just, I want to be left alone,
Right.
But, I think sometimes that repeated isolation, sense of, I'm by myself in this, I think that in the immediate can be good to kind of get back to the center. But I think the longer it goes on, the more harmful it can be to somebody. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. And I just thinking with my own experience with stuff, with that isolation kind of thing, sometimes it's just that car ride home that is sufficient for that day. And so it's like, so let's say I had a stressful day during the day. My ride home, that's my 10, 15 minutes of peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I'm home and I'm not dealing with anything.
Oh, and you know, and my dad told me one time, he said, you know, one thing that, you know, we're all busy. You know, everybody has their work life, they have their obligations they have. But he said the ironic thing is we all crave that 15, 20 minutes of peace every day.
Yep.
And however, and I would say this for anybody, you know, however you have your quiet time, particularly if you're a person of faith and have quiet time with God, make that a priority in your life, because you've got to disconnect, because you stop and think, we're super busy, all of us anyway. Yeah. We're constantly connected to everything. And it seems like the only time we're not connected, we're not going through our phone, is when we're asleep. And so I think you just got to be more intentional about, you know, having that quiet time, whether it's in the morning time, putting yourself right for the day, whether it's in the evening time. And, you know, there's been times, and my wife has, you know, laughed at me about it. She said, so, yeah, did you have your quiet time? I said, yeah. I said, I sat and I stared. Like, I just, you know, wasn't doing anything. I literally just stared at the wall. I think it's important. And I think that's one thing that creates some inner peace for ourselves, absolutely, which is so needed, whether or not you're going through something traumatic like a cancer diagnosis or just your daily life. You know? Yeah, I think it's so needed for all of us, particularly us as men, because I think we tend to neglect that sometimes.
Yeah, something I need to get back into is there was this practice that I picked up from this, I think it's going to be a rabbit trail for a second, but breathing exercises is the short answer. But I never really did that until I went to this, so I work with Google Pixel on some influencers type stuff. And they sent a bunch of influencers up to New York. Yeah. And we stayed in like the woods kind of thing with a bunch of Airstreams and all this kind of stuff. And to our surprise, like, we didn't really know what the agenda was. But the next morning, there was this breathing exercise. This guy, Mark, took us through this stuff. And I don't know, man, it was crazy. Like, he kind of explained some things, talked us through some stuff. And then, like, his demeanor, was just amazing. Like, you can connect with someone like that in a heartbeat. But he brought us through these exercises, you know, breathing exercises that kind of took you through different paces. And then he would ask us, like, in the middle of it, like, reflection-type questions. And, man, I couldn't tell, like, I would say probably at least half the group were just in tears. And it wasn't like a sad kind of thing. It was just, like, this release, and like, you don't realize how much is built up in you until someone intentionally helps you through that.
Well, and the thing I always tell people, think of sometimes you've seen, particularly guys, they get so angry they start to cry, you know. And I did remember reading one time, and I think it was something Jim Valvano said from the V Foundation, that coached at North Carolina State. He said, you know, one thing you need to challenge to do every day, it was, I think, make something that's going to make you laugh, make something that's going to make you, you know, think, and read something that's going to make you cry. And he said, now it doesn't have to be, you know, you're just soaking through your clothes crying. He said there is something kind of cathartic in doing that, you know, that
we have to have that release.
You got, because particularly, you know, if, as most guys, you know, we're probably all the same. We don't like to talk about, you know, our emotions or anything like that.
Look up that app just in case someone's interested. Because, like, I would highly suggest trying it out. And it's one of those things where the more you can do it, the better. There's, in this particular app, it has all kinds of situations you can go through.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like I said, and I mean, again, the, you know, the other night with the meet and greet, you know, I didn't think I was really going to get emotional because, I mean, like I said, I've never, you know, personally, you know, gone through a cancer diagnosis. And my family's never really been largely touched by it, my side of the family. But, like, just hearing everybody's story and then seeing the impact it was going to have, I was like, I felt 10 times better when I walked out there than I did walking in because, I mean, got teared up a little bit and got a little emotional. And I think most everybody in the room did at some point. And like I said, and it just, you know, I think there's something to that. I mean, you just, you know, that's not to say you're going to sit there and just be hysterically, you know, crying or anything. But, yeah, it's good to kind of have a little bit of that, emotional release that we need sometimes, you know, and it's something that's you're doing it in a way that's helping you, not in a way that's hurting you,
right.
you know. So yes, I totally agree with that, man.
Yeah, this particular app is called Othership, and I'll leave a link in video description stuff. But I've enjoyed it. I need to get back into it because I kind of put it away for a while. But it just like to your point though, it's really good to just separate yourself from the world around you at times, but come back into it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's something we've got to be. I think we all have to be more intentional to do, particularly when you're going through, you know, some kind of like a cancer diagnosis, whether it's husband, wife, mom, dad, whoever it may be, because I think it's even more important then, because you're having to be so strong for them and be the example for them, but you can't do it if you're not being strong for you and not taking care of yourself. Yeah. You know, it's hard to care for somebody else if you're not following through on what you need to be doing.
Right. Yeah. Like the holistic approach is the way I like to say that. It's like we have to be physically, spiritually, and emotionally fit.
Yeah.
And they all go so hand in hand with each other.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Like if one is off, it usually impacts the other. Trinity of
I mean, absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, if one area is lacking, it's going to catch up to you eventually. Yeah. You know, and because like I said, because I mean, I just think about people, friends of mine, family members that I've known, all these folks that you're close to, and you just see, again, when somebody's going through, a diagnosis and however it presents itself, is that, the toll it just takes on them, know, because obviously you're stressing about finances, you're stressing about, okay, what happens if the worst case scenario happens? I mean, what are we going to do? And I think too, about younger couples that experience that. When somebody's lost their husband or wife and they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and they've got 2 or 3 children. They're playing both roles now. What am I going to do? And that's the one that's always so sobering to me is to think of that, and it brings it home, really.
It does.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you've seen through some other people's stories that you've maybe recently witnessed, or something that's kind of stood out to you a bit?
I think it's one thing that always resonates in my mind is you always know it's there, but when it's really up close and personal, getting to know all these folks doing the campaign is you really see how many folks have been affected by it in one form or another, whether it's been, a relative, a good friend of theirs. And like I said, you think, because people talk about it's, somebody will say, well, cancer can be a rare diagnosis sometimes. I was like, it ain't rare to them, and like I said, it's, I heard a line one time where, they were talking about, I think it was General Eisenhower, wrote in one of his journals, they were talking about D-Day, and he said they were anticipating something like 80% casualties when they raided the beaches. And he said, they gave him this report that it was only 20%. And he said, well, here's the sobering thing. He said, if it's your son, if it's your husband, and you reflected on this, if it's your wife or your daughter, whoever it is, it's 100%, Yeah, you can look at the odds all you want to, but this is the reality of it. Yeah. But I think that's the thing that resonated with me is just the stories that people had, and just really how strong everybody was, and I think it made them stronger as people. And so yeah, that's what really touched my heart, is just seeing how many people care about the people in their community, and a lot of times, this money that we're raising through the campaign and money people are going to donate, we may never meet the people it goes to. We may never really see the true impact it has. But I think when we know in here and up here, I think that's the most valuable thing. Yeah.
I might put out a little challenge. The new promise is that being that it's a relatively new organization, I love follow-up stories. So it's like if we got this campaign going, it'd be really cool to get obviously I'm a video guy, so I love to get stories on video. So I think it'd be pretty neat to be able to get some experience stories. I'm not going to say success stories. That doesn't sound right for this kind of situation.
Right.
But some experience type stories of how New Promises helped out.
Oh, yeah.
Some people in our community. And I think my thing is like, I think that it kind of reiterates some stuff that ends up that's where like this whole podcast heart came from. I was like, we got 25 people that are actively trying to make a difference in their own way. And I know some people find it easier to talk about stuff, other people don't, or they're somewhere in between.
Right.
So, whether you're comfortable on camera or not, it's like let's just sit down, let the cameras roll, and have a conversation.
Have a conversation.
Because the thing that I think goes such a long way is that relation points or the connecting points, to where it's like, we have some things in common because like we know people that have gone through cancer. Trey and I, we've connected on some points. Kendall, there's a lot of common stuff, and sometimes. It could, like I said in the meeting, is when you're, I get really passionate and really care about being able to provide a platform to help others speak whatever's going on. Because sometimes those words that you utter or speak can really be what sets someone free from their struggle.
Right.
Or at least gets them towards a path of freedom. I remember back when I used to work with Special Care Health Systems. And there's this campaign that we came up with, and it was called No Shame in Talking. And it kind of like at the heart of it was just like sometimes you just feel like what I say doesn't matter, or that person's not going to understand, or you might be viewed as a weak person. Like all these doubts and all this kind of stuff kind of go through your mind. But sometimes, like whether it's talking to one person, whether it's talking in front of a podcast platform, or in front of a group of people, a handful of people, whatever the amount is, you don't know sometimes what that other person's going through, or whatever else. So, I mean, like we're all going through stuff, and there's, I've just found out like when someone else opens up about something, it gives that opportunity for someone else to open up.
And I think the beauty of having those relationships is, whatever somebody is going through, the common misconception people are going to have in their head is that, oh, well, nobody knows what I'm really going through.
Right.
I promise you, there's somebody out there that's gone through a similar issue that is not going to surprise them. It's not going to be a shock to them. It may be a shock sometimes to us that we didn't know that person was going through a particular issue.
Right.
But there's somebody out there you can talk to that's going to know what you're going through. And can relate to you.
With other stuff, like this might be for another time, but I'll just it doesn't hurt to say anything, but it's like I don't want to get off topic in a sense, but at the same time, on the topic of opening up, it's like I attempted to take my life in high school, and I'm over that stuff now. Like I've gone through all the work that it takes to get out of that kind of thing. But like I've got this tattoo of a semicolon, and as simple as that is, it's like basically 2 dots on my wrist has opened up so many conversations. Because if you don't know what that is, it means your story doesn't end.
Right.
That's the whole meaning behind the semicolon stuff. Your story keeps going. You pause, and then it keeps going. Like that's the sense of it. But it's like just whether I'm handing something over to someone, or they see that and they're like, "You too." like, or I knew someone that, attempted suicide. Like, you start to, like, a simple gestures like that.
Right.
So it's like I said, just if you have an opportunity to open up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to be an open book about everything.
Right.
But, time and place for all the things. But like I said, that's what, like, the heart of this whole attempt with this group is just to provide an opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope this is something that keeps going because, like I said, I think we have so many just really inspirational stories in our group. And I think as the campaign goes into 2025 and as other people step into that role, I think we're going to find that everybody has got some kind of story to tell. Or, you always hear about this is my why I do something. And like I said, I've been very blessed. My side of the family, we've never really had a lot of cancer. And of course, again, I didn't mean to give anybody the impression the other night that I had ever had it before. Yes, I want to clear that up. I was trying to, I think, bring some humor into the situation. But like I said, it's something that, everybody's got some motivation, whether it's somebody that, was a mentor to you or, somebody you loved and cared about. There's a reason we're all doing it. And I think that's the most important thing that we can all remember in that. Yeah.
So I think maybe to wrap up, just kind of go over like if you're first time listening or you've not heard about New Promise Cancer Foundation. Overall, there's a financial goal of $60,000.
Exactly.
As of last week, we were over the halfway point. A few days into it. It was like the 7th or 8th.
I think we're somewhere around 35,000 now. When I looked the other day, yesterday or the day before. Yeah.
So we need another good head of steam.
Well, because of what happens in those things is typically right off the bat, you start hitting it out of the park. There's that kind of mid-month lull, and then I imagine what's going to happen is we get, probably in the next week and the last week of the month, we're probably going to see a lot more coming in, but. I think the important thing about it is what's so meaningful is, these are our family members, these are our friends, people we work with, people we go to church with that are donating. And we all know right now times are tough on people. And, that $25 you're donating, that $50, $100, whatever it may be, we know that could go somewhere else.
Yeah, I would love for it to be a point where it's like they don't have to turn anything down.
Right.
That they're able to just take care of almost any request that comes.
Yeah, anything that comes in, we can handle, and that's I think long term. I think that's where this is the first step in that process. And I think hopefully they'll see. Okay, we did this in 2024 with our group of 25, and we got to 60,000 pretty easily. Well, let's step it up. Maybe let's shoot for 75 for next year, and then and before you know it, I mean, it gets to that point that anybody comes in, look, we can help you. Absolutely.
Just to build that reputation of being a great resource in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll leave our links in the description stuff. So if there's someone that wants to donate, they can do that. It all goes to one pot. So it's like if you put money on his link, it's fine because it's going to the same pot.
Exactly.
It's mine, or if there's someone else in the group that you want to support too, put it over there. If there's, I know I've seen in the comments, and I know some people that have donated on my profile was, they're doing it in honor of people's names, and like that's a really special way to do that kind of stuff. So make it personal. Do it in someone's honor. Like you said, if it's $10, $20, $100, whatever it is, it'll go a long way either way.
Yeah, and stop and think. If you do donate something, let's say you do donate $10, stop and think. Okay, what am I really sacrificing there? That's basically now a number one combo at Chick-fil-A. Large size. I know that almost by by memory. So when you stop and think about, okay, I can give that up. For to help a great good cause, and I think it's certainly worthy of it. Yeah.
So man, I appreciate you coming in. And
absolutely, but I enjoyed it, man. Yeah, thanks for having me.
We got I think next up to bat, unless if something happens sooner, we'll have Kendall Angie, and Ashley.
Yeah.
And then
Kendall's funny too, man. She's funny. Yeah.
So between the three of them, it'll be a good show for sure.
Well, and
shout out to all of them, right?
Yeah, and so. Yeah, and I'm glad I got a chance to clear that up. So the other night, and I guess the joke didn't come across well to everybody, but I said, despite being married almost 10 years, I still have my testiculars, and I guess everybody just didn't get the joke. So, because you could tell we were trying to bring a little humor into it, and I said, God, I walked down there. I said, God, I hope nobody thinks I ever had cancer.
I 100%.
So I mainly want to apologize if anybody thought that, but I was just trying to bring a little humor into the situation.
But you still are representing that cancer, right?
Yeah, still representing that cancer. So I'm glad I got a chance to clear that up with everybody. So yeah, no, I have never been diagnosed with it, and I think I didn't make that clear because I think when somebody hears something like testicular cancer, the automatic assumption is that I had it. But, I was just kind of a late entry, so it was the one I got, Well, I think they're like, we need somebody to represent it.
Not to put any, discount towards that, but I guess that for the next round of Promise Partners, sign up early so you don't get...
Make sure you do, because everybody's going to think you had it. But, but no, but like I said, and I think it really takes... I think really something like that. I think it almost does have to be a guy because it's probably going to be hard for a lady to talk about testicular cancer.
I can see that too. But to our points that we've already made, other people that might have been in the family could have been impacted, just like a guy's mom could have had breast cancer or something like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But,
goodness.
Yeah, but yeah. So no, I appreciate you getting a chance to clear that up. But no,
if we accomplish anything,
we cleared up. I did not have. We were, representing, but did not have. So yeah,
the boys are still good.
Hey, they're still in place, man. And that was the joke I was making. I said, after 10 years of marriage, I still have mine. So I'm glad I got a chance to clear that up.
That's funny.
Well, hopefully, if nothing else, I'll give everybody a chuckle, and because like I said, I was like, God.
I was like, man, he beat the thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize until I was leaving because I was like, the way I phrased that, it's going to sound like I had it, and I didn't, so I now feel bad. But I was like, it was just, a misstep in the moment, but if that's the worst thing I've ever done, I think I'll be all right, which is not by far the worst thing I've ever done, but misspeaking.
That's another show.